Police fire, search one! Police search one!
It's not that smaller.
Tonight, unprecedented access to the war on drugs.
Right now, including heroin, there are more overdoses than even motor vehicle accidents. 100 people dying a day, and that's pretty significant.
I would say very prevalent. We've seen a significant increase in the heroin use right here in the Quad Cities over the last, 24 to 36 months.
Prescription drugs that are out there, not only the illegal prescription drugs that anybody can go out and buy from somebody else, but the drugs that are right there in their own house that their parents are taking. Parents have to be so careful.
Don't start. Don't even think about trying it because you'll lose everything.
It's not going to help you. We all have problems, and you want to hide from your problems. And that's what most of them say. Everything is all right for just a short time. But that's no excuse. That's the easy way out. That's a scapegoat. That's running from your problems, and it's only going to hurt you. And you're going to be in jail, or you're going to be dead.
It's a battle raging across America, and there is a target zone in the heart of the Midwest. Almost 200 people die every day across the U.S. from an opioid or heroin overdose, leaving families shattered and police on constant patrol. We work undercover with local police as they take down those who are believed to be responsible for the illegal distribution of drugs in our area.
Police fire, search one!
And we get firsthand accounts of the devastation left behind when opioids, heroin, or meth destroy or claim the lives of someone you love.
I can remember 2 days that I haven't cried since we lost her. It's a piece of me and it's gone. I can never get it back.
I am 45 years old, and I started using when I was 17 years old.
I'm 40 years old now, and I started using when I was 11 years old.
Pretty much first 2 years of high school, I flunked out, and I was just partying nonstop.
For many families, the heartache, loss, and in some cases, sheer devastation begins with just one trip down on the farm.
I'd do a couple hits of heroin here and there, and I started doing more and more and more.
It's a danger facing our children. Sometimes they become the addict. Other times, they are an unwilling victim, witnessing the life of someone they love spiral out of control.
My real father, he was, I think, fresh out of prison at that time, and I moved in with him, and he was an addict as well, and I pretty much just took off, and I just kept going down and down that path.
Even watching his father live a life of addiction that eventually led to an early death didn't stop Noah Ackerland from following in his dad's footsteps.
This lowest point for me was this last time on the whole meth binge. That's something I never thought that I would have done. You know what I mean? I got out of treatment early 2015, and I met some people that were in treatment, and I ended up calling them right away after I got out. I had all the right intentions of staying sober, but I didn't have a plan.
Experts say that plan is crucial for anyone attempting to beat an addiction. The Dwyer family thought they had a plan to help their daughter Emily, but the plan failed. A heroin addiction killed her.
I tried to talk to Emily, and it's like, I'm here, we're here, we love you. The house, your pets, your life, your future. You really want to throw it away for that needle? I mean, I just couldn't, but once you start, and you're not, right now we don't know how to help. So once you start, you may never get back. And the pain that you cause your entire family is unbearable. And we love you. And we want you to survive, and we want you to live, and we want you to thrive.
A devastated mom that wishes she had just one more chance to save her daughter.
Oh, God, I just really understand you are in pain. I wish we could have had one more chance. I wish I could have one more day to hug her, kiss her, talk to her, have some inkling that this was my last chance. And just spend, 24 hours holding her, talking to her, begging her, trying to work out some kind of plan that would have enabled us to hopefully help her recover. Just one day to try again. And I love her. I love her so much. I miss her so.
For Emily's dad, the pain is also overwhelming at times. He's trying to reach as many young people as possible by telling Emily's story.
When you're getting into drugs, there's nothing good that can happen. There's absolutely nothing good that can happen.
Emily had gone to jail at least 3 times on drug charges, each time vowing to turn her life around. But the addiction was too strong. She couldn't fight it. One night in April of 2016, Emily went into her bedroom, closed her door, and took another hit. That hit would end her life.
Emily never, ever, ever wanted to kill herself. She never wanted to stop living.
We were seeing it with teenagers and 20 and 30-year-olds through sports injuries, and now we're actually seeing females, 40 and 50-year-old females.
Joe Calley has spent decades counseling people, young and old, who have fallen into the trap of addiction. He tells us there is an increasing number of teens who have become addicted to pain medication. But the largest group of addicts isn't the teens, it's their mothers.
It's meth.
It's meth? How do you know?
It's not there. I shot it.
It's an epidemic that has thousands of families spiraling out of control. In many cases, the addiction doesn't stop with opioids. It progresses with addicts moving on to heroin or meth. A story Tracy Keel is painfully familiar with.
I am 45 years old, and I started using when I was 17 years old.
How did it begin?
Hanging out with some friends, and they were smoking some weed, and that's pretty much when I started. I smoked with them.
And then how quickly did it escalate from marijuana onto other things?
I was 17 when I smoked the marijuana, and then probably by the time I was 19, I had gotten a boyfriend that was doing meth, and I smoked meth with him for the first time, and that pretty much was when it started getting heavier.
For Tracy, it's become a lifelong battle, one that almost killed her husband.
We were supposed to be going to church with his parents, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, the alarm went off, and I rolled over to pretty much a nightmare. He was already in a coma. His eyes had swollen shut. They were blue. He had aspirated in his sleep, so there was this foam all over our bed that I couldn't even figure out where it stopped.
Doctors told Tracy it was time to say goodbye.
I had friends came in from out of town. It was leap year, and they came in town, went out party drinking, and got home, and a friend of mine gave me some pills, which I don't even remember taking, but they ended up being OxyContin, and they were 80 milligram pills, and I don't remember nothing. I woke up in the hospital, which ended up being about a month later. Can't not move, completely paralyzed, and I found out I was on a ventilator, and I almost died of a drug overdose that I didn't even know didn't even try nothing, didn't even try to die or nothing.
In fact, he came so close to dying, doctors told his wife to make funeral arrangements.
I was in the military before. They had my military paperwork and all that going, have my military funeral.
Miraculously, he escaped death and started on the road to recovery. While he's thankful to be alive, he realizes he will never fully recover.
I did physical therapy for almost 4 years after I got out of the hospital. I was there for almost 10 months. Get out, walked with a cane, did endless hours of speech and occupational therapies. But now is with my brain damage, my memory is not what it was. My physical being isn't even back to what it was. I'm probably running at 70%. Nowhere close to where I was in my prime, I guess you'd say, but I just live it one day at a time.
The average age of a heroin addict is 23 years old. Many began that journey with prescription drug abuse. Opioids and heroin combined are a huge problem, but meth is also claiming victims on a daily basis.
So methamphetamine has come into the Quad Cities and the surrounding areas here in the Midwest, and it hasn't taken over for heroin, but it's coming in such a quantity that it's primarily what law enforcement's dealing with.
The war continues to rage not only in the minds and bodies of those who are addicted, but also in the streets.
His pupils, to me, seem like they're dilated a little bit, which could mean that he's on some type of drug. He seems pretty adamant that there's nothing in his car. I'm going to find out. We'll see if he has anything on his person as well. I'll probably have him. Depending on what I find in the vehicle, we might have a strip search on him down to jail.
You don't have to talk to me. I've been through this before.
We worked with undercover officers in Rock Island as they battled to shut down the pipeline of illegal drugs passing through the Quad Cities. Some they get by breaking down doors.
Police search warrant! Search warrant! Police search warrant! Police department search warrant! Search warrant! Search warrant! Let me see your hands!
Other times, it's through sting operations.
He's moving the weight for her. I think she might be sending everybody over here.
You're looking at actual undercover video of meth deals taking place in the Quad Cities.
As drug trends go, like you said, it changes frequently, and meth now is just so readily available that it's kind of the flying under the radar, because you don't hear a lot about overdoses on methamphetamine. There are people that are using it and still going about their daily lives, but yet they'll use it 3 times a day and function. So it's kind of that drug that's out there that isn't getting a lot of news yet, but we spend so much of our time investigating meth cases that we recognize it, that it's a problem.
While some of the meth being sold is homemade,
That was on, and then she puts this around her neck, and that's where it's got a bunch of residue in it.
that's not usually the case with heroin. Drug enforcement agents tell us much of the heroin being sold in the Midwest comes from other countries. It lands in larger metropolitan areas such as Chicago and is then farmed out to dealers throughout Iowa, Illinois, and other Midwestern states. In many cases, heroin is mixed with fentanyl, a synthetic drug used primarily for cancer patients and others dealing with extreme pain, or its stronger counterpart, carfentanil, a drug commonly used to sedate large animals, such as elephants.
The heroin and the fentanyl is still here. Obviously, more officers and more emergency responders have Narcan, so they're saving more lives. So you're not hearing so much about the overdose deaths that were occurring. They still are. Narcan's still being used. We have troopers on the interstate that are administering Narcan. There was one circumstance here not too long ago where the trooper rolled up on a car and there were 2 people unconscious in the car, and he was able to call emergency response, administer Narcan firsthand. The interesting thing about that one is that when the first responders showed up, they had to administer additional Narcan to the point where they ended up giving one of the individuals 4 doses for him to be revived. And you don't hear a lot about that in the news because they're saving the lives. So it's still a problem, the heroin, the fentanyl.
We've also been working with agents specializing in U.S. Customs and Border Protection. They discovered an assortment of narcotics during a failed smuggling attempt. Many times the drugs are not discovered as they cross the border. That leaves undercover officers on high alert in our area.
All right, you got a male black in like a mustard yellow colored jacket. It came out of the store and is in the car with your CS now.
We spent 4 days with the Tactical Operations Division of Davenport Police.
Sitting in another lot. Somebody just got in the car. I bet he's doing a deal right here.
Undercover officers had 2 people under surveillance. This man is accused of being one of the biggest dealers in the Quad Cities. An informant tells undercover officers this dealer just met up with a buyer. As he approaches his home, the tactical ops team moves in, but the dealer takes off.
Oh. Damn it.
While he may have gotten away, the escape didn't last long. The tactical ops team surrounds this grocery store as he's seen running in. We were there when they took the suspected dealer down. Police tell us this arrest is a huge win in the battle to stop drug trafficking in their town.
Yeah, so in state court they're facing manslaughter charges. So the idea is that we aim to prove that their delivering of a narcotic to an individual contributed to their death.
Just 1 week later, we are back out with undercover officers as they target another house. This one in West Davenport, off Heatherton Drive.
Because they'll just swallow it immediately. They'll keep it right in their hand and they'll swallow it. Even like crack cocaine, when we do crack cocaine buys, the dealers will keep it in their mouth. And then when you walk up and you do the money transaction, they'll actually spit it out into your hand.
We set up shop inside an empty upstairs apartment across the street from the suspect's house. For 2 days, we watched people come and go. Investigators call many of the people leaving the house frequent flyers, meaning they pay frequent visits there for one reason only, to get more drugs.
Where'd they go? They're right there. Incognito.
You might have to bust me out for fun. Somebody. You're gonna have to tell them for the game.
I'll run around and grab those guys first.
So that gray one right there, that's our target house.
Finally, it's time to act. Undercover police surround the house. First, they take down the suspect's husband, then they storm into the home. As the suspect is taken into custody, investigators comb the house inch by inch. While they don't find a lot of heroin inside, they find some.
That's definitely green.
And they also find cash. Money they say was paid to the dealer in exchange for drugs. Every bust like this has the potential to save lives. Here are the latest numbers from the Center for Disease Control. Opioids, including prescription opioids, heroin, and fentanyl, killed more than 72,000 people in 2017. That's more than any year on record. 40% of all opioid overdose deaths involve a prescription opioid. The numbers are still being tallied from 2018. We did learn that Iowa continues to see an increase in overdose deaths. The numbers climbed 2.9% from 2016 to 2017. Illinois saw a staggering 34% increase over the same period. While many of those deaths came from the Chicago area, not all of them did.
Correct. A popular method is just once it gets into across the border, they'll have a location close to the border that they can take it to, and then disperse it from there. That is one method. So they would take it to a local facility that they have established close to the border. It gets divided up and then sent out, in different locations across the country. But it can also be done through the mail. They'll ship it through the mail. They'll get it into the country, and then it'll be shipped through the mail from areas that are just on this side of the border. And I'm sure that there are loads that remain intact and come up here in mass quantities. I mean, we're talking hundreds of pounds on a truck, tractor, semi-trailer coming up. That is happening. They're harder to find, and gathering the information on it takes some time and some investigative skills. So here in the Quad Cities, we haven't seen that a ton. Ours is usually coming into the area in smaller quantities, up to, I've seen 10, 15 pounds come in at one time. And I'm sure that's happening quite frequently in that quantity.
Interstate still the main method of travel for some of that?
Interstate's the main method. Postal services are right up there. A lot of it's being mailed in. We had a recent case that involved, meth being mailed in by the pound through using a parcel service and coming from California. So that's a popular method. But there's a lot of those facilities, the sort facilities there's officers that work those and specifically trained to look at packages and the destination and where they're coming from and trying to interdict packages that are being sent through the mail. So there's a good effort going to try to thwart that attempt, but it's definitely being used and it's a popular method. They've also tried disguising it. As you're saying, they'll conceal it in vehicles in different ways. I haven't encountered liquid meth yet, but it's becoming more frequent to where they'll ship it up here in a liquid form. And that offers a whole nother realm of concealment methods. I've heard of them emptying out washer fluid containers in vehicles and filling that up with liquid meth just to drive it across the country in that way, or in drums, So that's another method they're using. What that involves, and usually they'll have a conversion lab to wherever they're going and convert it into a usable product back into a solid form. So those are things that we're watching for, and we haven't yet seen one here, but it's just a matter of time.
The undercover officers of the Metropolitan Enforcement Group are on the front line to the drug war.
They call it a war on drugs, and we like to look at it as we're just trying to contain it. We're not trying to, we'd love to win it, but we're realistic. We know you're never going to eliminate the drug problem. So what we do is we just try to keep it from spreading like wildfire. We try to contain it. There's a certain base of the population that will never use drugs. So, and then there's a certain base of the population that try it, experiment with it, and become addicts. So what we try to do is just stay there and maintain it, and so that it just doesn't become overwhelming to the point where, it's a social nightmare.
For some families, the damage has already been done, and the carnage left behind is something that can never be fully repaired. The Dwyers spend their days wondering what led their daughter down the path of no return. They also do their part to warn others about the dangers of drugs. After 4 failed attempts at recovery, Noah Ackerlin hopes the 5th time will be the one that puts him on the right path.
The future holds bigger opportunities. Instead of just talking about them, I'm actually putting them into action. I want to be part of the solution now, not the problem. So I'm currently enrolled at Scott Community College for EMS. That's been a passion of mine for a while. Like I said, I have a lot of friends and family members that have passed away. Even over this past year, there's a lot of people that passed away from it, and I don't want to be part of the disease anymore. I want to be part of the solution to help.
Meanwhile, the Keels may not fully recover physically, but they say emotionally and financially they are on a much better path.
I, couldn't keep a job before because if I didn't have, what I needed, I was sick. So I couldn't hold a job. There was no way. But now I've had the same job for years. I mean, we have medical insurance. We have, we have everything pretty much. I don't have to worry like I did before.
For those who are still battling addiction, Reggie has a final piece of advice.
Lay off the drugs. You have a life and family to worry about. It's time to straighten up because you're heading way down the wrong path.
And for those who are manufacturing and selling, the battle lines are drawn.
Police power search warrant!
And police are looking for you.
Police power search warrant! Police power search warrant!